Ai sulla on jo pullo suussa. Tähän aikaan. Kello on 10. Juo nyt edes vettä välillä, sähän kuolet tohon.
Kuulisinkin.
Kävittekö te tuolla City Marketissa?
Ei, mähän käyn aina siinä Sopparinais-marketissa.
Se on kuulkaa nyt niin upea, kun ne on laittanut sinne remonttia.
Mä kävin siellä viikko sitten, mutta ei se nyt hirveästi ole.
Joo, mutta kato, sä et nyt tiedä, kun ne on laittanut siellä kaiken uusiksi.
Hello everyone and welcome to a new episode of HOBO, a wandering podcast about cinema, and we are here at the 73rd Berlin International Film Festival, and we are very happy to introduce to you 𝗂𝗶𝗶𝗃, Finnish director, and we are very happy to discuss with her new film Family Time, premiering here at the Berlinale. And it is a beautiful film about relationships, about between people in a family, but also maybe about the difficulty to be happy in a family context, even when love and commitment for the people we care about is there.
Yeah, well, I'm really interested in the private space of the home because that's where we're supposed to be able to be ourselves, you know, and in family time, we see them in their pajamas in the morning, you know, brushing their teeth, and it's very private, and it's something very disarming about that. And I think home is a very important place to look at critically what's happening there, because that's where we grow up to the persons who we are. The children grow up to who they are inside the walls of our houses, and that's the place where we nurture our most important relationships. So I think, yeah, I've wanted to explore that space and look what is actually going on there.
And do you think we are more vulnerable in our family context?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And when you conceived the short film in 2018, what came first, the idea of talking about family, or the idea of setting the film in a domestic space, in a private space?
Well, actually, because the feature is not really based on the short film. It's the other way around, that I wanted to make a feature film about a Christmas gathering, and I wanted to try out the idea. So that's why we made the short film with the same theme and the same characters, but it was just like a normal weekend at the grandparents in the short. But so the initial idea was to depict a Christmas gathering.
All right.
Yeah, but the space is really important. I mean, I think my view on these people is that we're looking at people inside a house, in the room, you know, so the room is also, and the space and how they're using it is an important element.
And talking about the characters, you did the two short movies in 2016 and 2018. How they changed over the years, those characters?
Maybe the characters, like, not so much. Of course, they became a lot deeper, and when I wrote the script for the feature, so they got more depth into them. But then always when I cast children, I try to take in a lot of their personality. So when I cast new children, they become new persons. But the other characters have stayed pretty much the same.
It's very interesting, no? Your work through the years, so starting from the first.
But I mean, I guess I'm stubborn, and in the first short, I really. I was in the very beginning, like, trying to just figure out, like, what is interesting here, what is it actually that I want to say with this family, and, you know, I wasn't sure about that. So the first film was a lot about that, and then the second short was more about how to work with the actors, how to even make scenes that are 10 minutes long, you know, some of them, and yeah, so I wanted to try that out.
Yeah, and we were saying at the beginning that this is the kind of sadness, and this is kind of difficulty to succeed in personal relationship, and difficulty to be happy even when love is there. But we have this character, the grandchildren, 𝗂𝗃𝗃𝗃, that doesn't have all the problems of the adults and the adultness. But do you think this kind of the problems of their grandparents and parents is something that is cultural and generational, or do you think that maybe Illa is also doomed to the kind of sadness when she will grow up?
I don't know. I think I've tried to depict trajectory of that Susanna Hilla's mother has chosen another kind of husband that what her father was. She has chosen quite a good husband who takes care of his children and so on. So as I'm depicting the problems, I'm also depicting how change eventually is possible as well. So I want to leave the film in a feeling of hope that she would not be deemed to the same problems, but who knows? We don't know what happens.
And your film has a particularly dry, often involuntary humor that comes from showing people's lives with the utmost seriousness. Who are the directors who inspired you in this?
Many different, I must say, but I like most often I came back to Yatsuhiro Osu's Tokyo Story for his gaze on the people. We are always on their level, and I also like to use that. I always try to be on the people's level, and 𝗄𝗏𝗄𝗃's happiness is maybe a little bit for the humor, although it's not exactly the same kind of humor that I use, but also for following multiple characters who are just over a certain theme, that it's not so much the plot that we're following, but I think it's a great film. And also Roy Andersson, for example. Yeah.
Maybe 𝗂𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 also.
I wouldn't say people say that they recognize the humor, there's similarity, but yeah.
All right. There's no 𝗂𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃. No, it's okay.
Yeah, no, but it's nice. It's a great comparison. I love it. But it's just when you're writing, when you're developing the idea, I don't know why, but you just go back to certain films, and so it's
yeah. And speaking about the Christmas setting, for example, when thinking about Italian films or even French films set during Christmas lunches or Christmas dinners, usually these conviviality moments are moments where unresolved tension explode. But in this case, I think maybe for example, thinking about Susanna and their problems with her husband, it seems that it's a moment when problems are put under under the carpet and being hidden. And do you think is it right? Do you think maybe it is due to the way Finnish people live this and experience this holiday?
Yeah, like I think that, I mean, in my experience, it's so often that there is something going on under the surface, and it's very seldom that we actually like bring them up and try to solve it and talk about it. Susanna does this later in the garage, but like my view of Christmas is that there are things going on, but you try to keep it down and and you just endure it.
All right. It's generally we have some Italian movies set in Christmas time, and it's always madness because it brings the worst out of the people. So it was interesting this fact that in the first part of the film all the problems are settled down and then they emerge later. So.
And would you be interested, if given a chance, to make a sequel intergenerational, which you can show what happens next to the next generations, to the children when they grow up, something like that?
You mean like in 10 years?
Yes, 10 years.
Yeah, maybe we'll see then. I'm not gonna make a sequel to this now, but we'll see what I feel like doing in 10 years. Yeah,
It's not a bad idea.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Tima. We've been very happy to have you here on our podcast, and we'll say goodbye to our audience and see you in the next days with other episodes from the 73rd Berlinale. Goodbye to all.
Ai, sulla on jo pullo suussa. Tähän aikaan, kello on 10. Juo nyt edes vettä välillä, sähän kuolet tohon.
Kuulisinkin.
Kävittekö te tuolla City Marketissa?
Ei, mähän käyn aina siinä Sopparinais-marketissa.
Se on kuulkaa nyt niin upea, kun ne on laittanut sinne remonttia.
Mä kävin siellä viikko sitten, mutta ei se nyt hirveästi ole.
Joo, mutta kato, sä et nyt tiedä, kun ne on laittanut siellä kaiken uusiksi.